The massacre. The sky over New Dawn burned red. The human colony was young, barely a decade old, nestled in the green valleys of an untouched world. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a place where families could live free from war. That dream died the moment the Imperial dreadnoughts arrived. The Galactic Empire, a cold-blooded alien race, saw humanity as little more than vermin. They had crushed Earth and dozens of its colonies over the years, enforcing their rule with brutal efficiency. New Dawn had been ignored, until rumors of human resistance reached Imperial ears. And now it was burning. Bring them forward. Lord Varric stood tall in the ruined town square, his reptilian features gleaming under the harsh white lights of hovering patrol drones. He wore the gleaming black armor of an Imperial executor, his red officer's cape draped over his massive shoulders. Around him, a squad of Zalzaran warriors kept their weapons trained on the survivors. Men, women, and children huddled together like frightened cattle. The search for resistance fighters had been brief. The Empire's scanners detected no weapons, no military-grade technology, nothing. And that infuriated Varric. "This was a waste of my time," he growled in his native tongue, his forked tongue flicking in agitation. One of his lieutenants hesitated. "Sir, they are civilians. We should—" Varric's claws lashed out, slashing across the officer's face. The younger Zalzaran collapsed, gurgling on his own blood. "They are humans," Varric spat, "and they must learn what happens to those who even dare to think of resistance." He turned toward his soldiers. "Kill the children." A hush fell over the crowd. For a moment, the human survivors didn't react. The order was too monstrous, too sudden. A mother clutched her young son tighter. An elderly man stepped in front of a teenage girl. But the Zalzaran warriors raised their rifles, and reality crashed in. "No, please," a father screamed, throwing himself forward. He was cut down instantly, his body collapsing into the mud. Blaster fire erupted. Children fell. Screams tore through the night as the Imperials slaughtered them all, their weapons turning fragile young bodies into lifeless husks. Some of the children tried to run, their small feet kicking up dust as they bolted for safety, but there was nowhere to hide. The soldiers gunned them down without hesitation. A little girl, no older than 6, stood in the center of it all, sobbing as she clutched a stuffed toy in her tiny hands. A rifle was leveled at her head. The shot rang out. The toy hit the ground. And then silence. The remaining adults stood frozen, too numb to speak, their minds unable to process what had just happened. Lord Varric stepped forward, his boots crunching on the blood-soaked ground. "Let this be a lesson," he said coldly, his voice cutting through the smoke-filled air. "The Empire does not tolerate defiance." He turned on his heel. "Burn the rest. We're done here." The Imperial soldiers set to work, torching the remaining homes, executing the last survivors, ensuring New Dawn ceased to exist. Varric didn't spare another glance as he strode toward his shuttle. To him, this was just another meaningless purge, another nameless colony wiped away like dust on a blade. He did not see the lone figure standing at the edge of the massacre. She stood in the shadows beyond the flames, her eyes hollow and unblinking. Her dark hair was loose, falling around a face that felt carved from stone, expressionless, empty. She held no weapon. She made no sound. She simply watched. A Zalzaran scout passed nearby, catching a glimpse of her pale face in the flickering firelight. He paused, his reptilian eyes narrowing. He lifted his scanner to identify her. She was gone. The soldier frowned, unsure if he had truly seen anyone at all. He glanced back at the corpses, then turned away, dismissing the thought. Far above, the Imperial dreadnoughts left New Dawn's orbit, their mission complete. They did not realize what they had just unleashed. The awakening of the Baba Yaga. Elena Markov sat in the darkness of her ruined home. The fires had long since died down, leaving behind the stench of burnt flesh and smoldering metal. The colony was silent now, stripped of life. A graveyard, a place where her son had once laughed, played, and called for her in the night when he had bad dreams. But this nightmare was real, and she could not wake from it. She sat on the cold floor, staring at the small, blood-stained scarf in her hands, the only thing left of him. The only thing those monsters had not burned, crushed, or vaporized. Her son was gone. The grief came in slow waves, dull at first, like an old wound that refused to close. But then the pain sharpened, twisting into something darker, something colder, something that had been buried long ago, something she had tried to leave behind. For years, she had hidden from her past. She had buried the name Baba Yaga, choosing instead to live as just another colonist, another wife, another mother, a simple, quiet woman with a small home and a bright-eyed child who knew nothing of the things she had done. But the Empire had taken that life from her. And so, she whispered to the darkness, "I told you to let me rest." She was speaking to something deep inside her, the part of herself that had slept for years, the part that had once made even the most hardened killers tremble in fear. The Baba Yaga, the thing she had tried to bury, began to stir. She stood slowly, feeling the weight of years settle across her shoulders, not in exhaustion, but in certainty. The mother who had once dreamed of peace was dead. Only the hunter remained. It was time to dig up the past, the arsenal beneath the floor. Elena moved through the wreckage of her home with silent precision, brushing away ash and shattered glass until she found what she was looking for, an old, dust-covered floor panel near the bedroom. She pulled it open. Beneath it lay a steel crate, locked with a code only she knew. The colony's security scanners had never detected it. She had made sure of that. The lid clicked open. Inside, the weapons of her old life gleamed in the dim light. A pair of silenced kinetic pistols, custom-built, designed for quick and brutal efficiency. A black combat blade, its monomolecular edge capable of slicing through alien bone like butter. A sniper rifle with an advanced optical scope, its sleek design built for a single shot, one kill. And her armor, a matte black combat suit, reinforced with stealth plating and lined with memory-weave fabric, making it light as a whisper but strong enough to deflect energy rounds. Elena exhaled slowly. Her hands moved without hesitation, strapping the weapons to her body in a series of fluid, practiced motions. Each holster, each blade sheath, each ammunition pouch found its place as if they had never left her. She reached for the final item, a black skull-shaped mask, smooth and featureless. She had worn it in the past to terrify warlords, crime syndicates, and mercenaries alike. Even the most ruthless killers in the galaxy had whispered her name in fear. But she had abandoned that identity long ago. Or so she had thought. Now, the Baba Yaga had no choice but to rise again. She slid the mask over her face. The hunt begins. Elena did not scream. She did not wail in agony. There was no room for that anymore. Grief was a human emotion, and the thing inside her, the thing that had awoken, was no longer human. It was something else. She moved like a shadow through the ruined colony, picking through wreckage, searching for survivors. There were none. The Imperials had been thorough. Good. She did not want witnesses for what came next. Instead, she gathered supplies, data drives, and a small, undamaged transport ship hidden in the colony's underground hangar. Her first target was already set, an Imperial relay station located on a nearby moon. The Zalzaron forces stationed there had been responsible for maintaining communication with the dreadnought that had destroyed her home. Elena would send a message, not through words, through blood, the Empire's fear. The first death was silent. A Zalzaron technician sat alone in the dimly lit Imperial relay station, his scaled fingers tapping lazily at a console. The station was small, just an outpost orbiting a lifeless moon, but it served as a vital communications hub for the Imperial fleet. He yawned, mandibles clicking in boredom. Then his screen flickered. Strange. There was no scheduled transmission. The lights blinked out. The last thing he felt was cold steel slicing across his throat. The first strike. When the Imperial officers arrived at the relay station 3 hours later, they found nothing but corpses. The guards had been executed, each one killed with brutal efficiency. No alarms had been triggered. No distress signals had been sent. But it wasn't just the dead that disturbed the officers. It was how they had died. Some had been strangled with razor-thin wire, their bodies suspended from the ceiling like grotesque warnings. Others had been killed with a single blade wound to the heart or throat, quick, surgical, precise. And the security footage? It made no sense. One officer played it back, his scaled hands shaking as he watched. The video showed shadows moving, but not like a soldier or an assassin, more like something inhuman. No alarms, no gunfire, no screams, just one shape in the darkness, moving too fast to track. And at the end of the feed, just before the last camera cut out, a single line had been scratched into the metal wall of the command room. "I am coming." The Empire's response. Lord Varric stared at the report in disbelief. A relay station, wiped out, not bombed, not sabotaged, but infiltrated and cleared out like prey slaughtered in the dark. By a single human. He refused to believe it at first. No human, not even a trained assassin, could have done this. But then came the convoy attack. A supply convoy, en route to a military garrison, never arrived. A scouting team was sent to investigate. They found the transport ship adrift in space, no distress calls, no engine damage. Inside, the Imperial troopers had been butchered, some still strapped into their seats, their throats slit. Others lay in the corridors, their weapons still holstered, as if they had never even drawn them before dying. There was no recorded battle, no survivors, and on the cockpit control panel, a message had been burned into the console with a plasma torch. "You took my child. Now I take everything." The fear spreads. Soldiers began whispering in hushed voices. The humans had a legend, the Baba Yaga. Some said it was a ghost, a demon, a myth. Others claimed it was a human assassin so deadly, so ruthless, that even the most powerful warlords feared to speak her name. Now Imperial officers whispered it, too. The deaths continued. A command outpost was infiltrated, its commander found hanging from the rafters, his eyes carved out. A patrol unit disappeared, their ship later found drifting, untouched, with no bodies, only bloodstains. An entire Imperial squad was eliminated while they slept. None of them even woke up before dying. Varric could no longer ignore it. "She is alone," one of his officers insisted. "One soldier, no matter how skilled, cannot fight an empire." Varric clenched his claws. "She doesn't need to fight the Empire." The officer hesitated. "She's hunting us." And that was far worse. The lockdown order. Fear was unacceptable. Varric issued an immediate planetary lockdown on every human-controlled system under Imperial rule. No unauthorized travel. No unmonitored transmissions. Any suspected resistance activity exterminated immediately. And most importantly, every available hunter, assassin, and tracker was sent to locate and eliminate one human woman. He watched the troops mobilize from his command center, thousands of alien warriors arming themselves with advanced weaponry. It should have reassured him. But Varric had seen the security footage from the relay station. He had seen the dead eyes of his best officers hanging from hooks. And deep in his cold-blooded heart, he knew the truth. They weren't hunting her. She was hunting them. The reckoning. The Imperial Command Center was in lockdown. The sprawling fortress, carved into the rocky cliffs of Zalzoreth Prime, was one of the most secure installations in the Empire. Armed sentries patrolled the walls, turrets tracked every approach, and drones hovered above, scanning for intruders. Yet, inside its halls, the soldiers were afraid. They whispered of vanishing squads, of silent deaths, of a human ghost that walked unseen, killing without mercy. The Baba Yaga was real, and she was coming. And then, the power died. The fortress plunged into total darkness. Alarms howled. Soldiers scrambled for their night vision gear, their scaled hands trembling as they raised their rifles. Then from the shadows, a voice. "You took my child." The words were soft, almost a whisper. Then came the first scream. The fall of an empire's elite. Elena moved unseen through the darkness, her body a shadow among shadows. She struck without hesitation. A blade flashed. A throat opened. A body crumpled without a sound. A patrol stumbled into the hall, their weapons raised. But she was already behind them. The first fell with a single shot to the skull. The second dropped as she drove her combat knife into his spine. They never saw her. They never had a chance. In the command room, Lord Varric's fear had turned to rage. "She is one human," he snarled, slamming his fists onto the console. "Find her. Kill her." His officers hesitated. They had seen the bodies. They had seen the messages carved into flesh, the warnings written in blood. Varric turned to his second-in-command, General Exorveth, his mandibles clicking in frustration. Exorveth swallowed hard. "We are trying, my lord." A distant explosion rocked the fortress. The screens flickered, then displayed something new. A security feed. It showed a hallway, a long, dim corridor lined with bodies. In the center of the screen, a figure stood motionless. She was small compared to the towering Zalzaron warriors, clad in a matte black combat suit. A skull-like mask covered her face, its empty eyes reflecting the flickering lights. She raised her head. Varric's blood ran cold. Then the screen went black. The final confrontation. The doors to the command center exploded inward. Elena moved like a ghost, stepping through the smoke, her twin pistols raised. The first guard fired. She was already gone. She rolled forward, snapping up and placing a bullet between his eyes. Exorveth lunged, his claws slashing through the air. She sidestepped, ducked low, and drove her combat knife up under his jaw. The general gurgled, clawing at his throat as blood poured out, then collapsed. Only Varric remained. The once mighty lord of the Empire stood frozen, his hands trembling as he reached for his plasma blade. "Wait!" Elena shot him in the knee. He collapsed with a shriek, clutching his shattered leg. She strode forward, her footsteps measured, deliberate. "You thought we were weak," she said, her voice quiet. "You thought you could take and never pay the price." She knelt beside him, pressing the muzzle of her pistol against his forehead. "This is the price." Varric's eyes widened. "Mercy." She pulled the trigger. A message to the Emperor. The fortress lay silent, its halls painted in blood. Elena stood in the communications chamber, surrounded by the dead elite of the Empire. She activated the long-range transmission. A flickering hologram of the Zalzaron Emperor appeared, a towering, reptilian warlord adorned in ceremonial armor. His expression was calm, almost amused. "Ah," he said, "the human ghost." Elena tilted her head. "Your empire killed my son." The Emperor's eyes glowed. "We have killed many humans." She leaned closer, her voice as cold as death. "And now I kill you." She sent the transmission. Not words. The footage. Every execution, every massacre, every brutal death, recorded and sent across every Imperial channel, to every colony, every fleet, every Zalzaron world. And the last thing the Emperor saw, before she severed the connection, was the symbol carved into Varric's forehead. A single, terrifying word. Baba Yaga. Epilogue. A legend is born. The Empire trembled. Whispers spread across the galaxy. Soldiers who had once mocked humanity now feared the dark. They spoke of a human woman who could not be stopped, a ghost who hunted monsters. And somewhere, in the shadows of the void, Elena Markov vanished once more. Because her work was not yet done.